Alright, so in this little video then, and it is only going to be a relatively short one, I'm trying to keep these short. In this video I want to suggest a difficulty which I've been thinking about, and I don't know what the answer is, so I'll be interested to hear your views. And I mean, so far as I've been telling it, well, how should we do this? Okay, so the way I'm going to set this up, I'm going to imagine two possible worlds. World 1 and World 2. Okay, and the two worlds, we're supposing that they're kind of exactly the same, really. They've got the same kind of distribution. You know, they've both got an Earth, they've got people. It's sort of, they're both versions of, as it were, our own universe, you know, with cats and dogs and people and so on. And in fact, we're going to imagine that they are exactly the same in their history from ancient times up until 1950. So we've got the two versions in 1950. So everything that happens before here is the same in both worlds. And in this world, we're going to have a fully formed human being pop into existence with memories of and so on. So there we go. So this person pops into existence at this point. Ex nihilo, from nowhere. And then we're going to suppose they continue to live until 1970, then they die, right? Then we're going to imagine that in 1980, a baby is born, and a person lives their life there up until 2020, okay? Until it so happens that there is a person who exists in 2020 whose mental life matches exactly right with this person here, and we imagine that this person in 2020 just goes out of existence. Okay, so they just boom, completely, they just pop out of existence. Okay, so that's the story. But in this story, note that what we're doing is we're imagining that this person in 1950 isn't a time-travelling version of this one here. He just so happens to pop into existence in 1950. Right? It's just a coincidence that this person in 1950 has got the memories of being this person in 2020. All right? And it's just a coincidence that this person pops out of existence at exactly that point. All right. The only difference then between the two worlds which I'm going to postulate then is this. We have the same kind of a setup, but in this one we're going to imagine so the baby 2020, that this is a time travel story, and here's how we get the difference. We get the idea that this person's disappearing in 2020 causes the appearance of the person in 1950. So far we didn't talk about causation in all of this, but here's the idea. If this world here is not one, this world here is one which doesn't involve time travel. It involves this massive cosmic coincidence that the person who disappears here exactly matches up with the person who appears there, but there's no time travel going on because it's just this massive cosmic coincidence that this person happens to pop into existence matching that person there, right? And the point is, if you look at these two worlds, they're going to look exactly the same, because the only thing we've added in is that this thing disappearing in 2020 causes the appearance of this thing in 1950, and that's what you need for time travel. You need for the person who disappears in 2020 to be identical with the person who appears in 1950, and you only get that holding if you've got this causal link between them. If we suppose in this case that it's just a massive coincidence, then this doesn't count as being a time traveller, because the person who appears in 1950 isn't causally linked. It's not the same person as the person who disappeared in 2020 because of the lack of causal link. I hope you can see the idea. It's like this would look just like a world in which there is time travel, but if there's no causal link between the disappearance of this person and the appearance of this one, then we can't say that this person has travelled back and it's just some weird cosmic coincidence. Again, right, weird cosmic coincidence, but not impossible, not logically. There's no contradiction in supposing that somebody appears out of nowhere. At least it doesn't look like it. So yeah, my thought here then really was this idea of, so far in all these ideas of whether time travel is possible, we haven't addressed the issue of, well, backwards causation. Backwards causation, in fact, seems to require that we can do something now to make it the case that something happened in the past. And that looks to be quite a problematic idea. I mean, if we just think about can you imagine planting some seeds today to make it the case that some flowers grew a year ago? You know, some sort of backwards time sprouting seeds or something. It seems weird. So how can you do now something that makes it the case, or made it the case that something will happen, or makes it the case that it will have happened? In fact, how do you even put the idea? So my thought is, in all of these time travel stories, how can we justify the idea that there's this causal link? And if we haven't got the causal link, if in fact all we do is describe a world in which we've got these weird random appearances and weird random disappearances, that's not enough to give us time travel yet. We need to give this causal link. I haven't heard this really much discussed in the literature, so don't know what to say about it. I did find there's an article by Michael Dummett on Bringing About the Past, who argues that this is a coherent thing, that you can do something now to make it the case that something happened. But it's not entirely convincing to me. Maybe I'll post the article if people are interested. And I mean, Dummett talks about an example in there, which is quite a nice example of, suppose that a plane crashes and you get the news through, your loved one was on the plane, suppose it was a parent or a sibling or something, and you hear that 50% of the people on board the plane have died. This happened, like, say, 2 days ago, but the news has just got through to you. And you hear that 50% of the people on board died, and 50% of the people are safe. They came out unscathed. And Dummett imagines somebody who believes in God getting down and praying to God, please God, make it the case that my loved one survived the plane crash. And he points out that that looks as though what you're praying for God to do there is to change the past. So you're praying now to ask God to do something in the past. And apparently, according to Jewish theology, this is a kind of blasphemous prayer, because it's actually logically impossible to change what's already happened in the way in which the Jewish thinkers have thought about this, apparently. So it's impossible for God to change the past. God is, of course, all-powerful, but being all-powerful just means that you can do whatever is logically possible. It doesn't mean that you can do the logically possible. Being all-powerful means you can do anything possible. So if it is impossible to change the past, God can't change the past, and therefore you are praying for God to do something that's impossible, and that's supposed to be a kind of a bad thing to do. So yeah, interesting. Whether we can make sense of this idea of backwards causation. And it looks like we need to make sense of backwards causation to make sense of time travel. So that's it really on that front. Just a few thoughts on backwards causation and whether, that's avoided in most of the mainstream literature, whether we can make sense of it. Yep, interested to hear what you think about that issue. I'll give the link to the Dummett paper as well. I'll provide that in the reading. Okay, so another little video now on another aspect of this which isn't often covered, but it's worth mentioning. So I'll do that now.